life. I'm a petrol head,
Yeah.
and
What is that? What is that?
like I'm a lover of cars. I
Nice.
like to see new technology in cars. The electric space is really working out well.
Yeah.
And while I was growing up, my father used to take us to all the motor shows, the annual rallies,
Yeah.
and that really impacted my perspective about cars and automotive industry. So yeah, that is one of my most cherished memories when I was growing up.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to Boss Lifestyle Club, where we talk about interesting stories from different people. I'm your friend Alan Mungai, and today we have a special friend with us. They know a lot about feelings, rules, and money, aka psychology, politics, and money. And we're going to chat about living in a country after it was taken over by Mzungus 2 to 3 generations ago. I'm talking about colonization. So let's get comfy, have a juice box, and listen to this fun chat. So, hi, Stanley Mwangi. Welcome to Boast Lifestyle Club. Before we dive into the big talk on culture and the after effects of colonization in our country, let's start with a fun game by taking a stroll down the memory lane. Can you share a funny or interesting childhood memory that always brings a smile to your face?
Yeah, sure, I can. I think one of the most impacting things in my life. I'm a petrol head,
Yeah.
and
What is that? What is that?
like I'm a lover of cars. I
Nice.
like to see new technology in cars. The electric space is really working out well.
Yeah.
And while I was growing up, my father used to take us to all the motor shows, the annual rallies,
Yeah.
and that really impacted my uh, perspective about cars and automotive industry. So yeah, that is one of my most cherished memories when I was growing up.
God damn it. I like that. I like that. I mean, you had a nice father growing up. Oh my goodness. So could you share a little bit about your personal journey growing up at that time of, from the time of growing up to graduating and even starting your professional life?
Sure. I was born in a Christian background,
Nice.
brought up in a Christian family, and it was a bit conservative, but it helped me gain principles, gain ideologies about life, which I still stick to. And the great things about that is that when I went into my professional life, and also my career, and also my education in college, I got to meet new dimensions about life, interact with people who had different perspectives about each and everything that encompasses our daily living, and putting those ideas against mine, the contrast is what makes us grow.
Yeah.
You get in the better aspects about each and every idea you get,
Yeah.
and then maybe the ones that kind of like go against your fundamental beliefs, those ones you leave behind.
Yeah, yeah, I think I like the sound of that. All right, so let's talk about the impact of colonization because we've been having this discussion. I think it was yesterday when we met when you came back to town, and this is one thing that we have to face as this generation, and this is not something we cannot assume that it doesn't exist, despite the fact that it's not so much talked about. And so that's why we're talking about this today, so that we can bring the awareness, bring our own thoughts and opinions to this, right? Definitely, this is a disclaimer. We're not professionals in this field. Whatever we're going to be sharing here are our own ideologies. Please feel free to drop your own ideologies in the comment section so that we can also see and understand how best we can expand this topic and bring awareness to it. So, let's kick into it, all right? Right. So living in a country that has experienced colonization, there must be obviously lasting effect on the culture and everything. From your perspective, what are some of the noticeable impacts, especially considering your personal experiences?
Well, I'd like to focus on maybe two or three. First of all, is language.
Yeah.
Well, we were growing up, we were fortunate enough to find parents who spoke their native language. Um, and they were able to teach us as we were growing up. But you find, maybe in my generation, the generation to come, people kind of think that one is backward.
Mhm.
If you have an accent, for example, a Kamba accent, a Kikuyu accent, ishish. You go to an interview, they're like, but if you have but if you speak fluently, maybe in English or German or no, not Kikuyu, but French, they kind of like give you the thumbs up.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be the case, because you find in other communities or other nationalities, person who speaks French, native French person who speaks English with a French accent, they're okay with it.
Yeah.
They don't see the problem with
And
that.
they even celebrated for that.
Yes, but you see, for us, it's a misnomer. Like, how in this era can you still be not speaking good English? Or when we are growing up, I will not let my child learn the same language I did when I was growing up.
Yeah.
They will speak English, they will speak German, they will speak French, but not the language that
I grew up with.
Yeah.
And I see also, this stuff with a lot of people, including the people, between the high school, university, just young folks, the youth, I'd say. Every single time you try to speak the best English you can, because you're in a professional setting. And kuna ile kitu they say kongoa and all this kind of stuff, where you mispronounce words in English, like you're basing it on a native, your own mother tongue's pronunciation. People are like, they kind of laugh at you. So we kind of stigmatize where we're from, and so being where we're from is it's not fun no more.
Not fun.
And this is a bad thing, because when I look at where we're from, that's exactly where we should be celebrating. The progresses that we're taking in life, like something we can base on. Not going to bed every night, looking after the next thing, and then when we need to come back home, we literally don't know our identity.
Sure.
I mean, it's such a thing out there, right? So let's proceed. Is it getting hot in here?
Nah, it's getting interesting.
It's getting interesting. I like the sound of that. Given your background in psychology, by the way, for those who don't know, my friend Stanley right here is a guy whom I started learning in psychology, and I think back in those days, you had something brilliant in terms of. I still remember what you said when I inquired about the human brain, human behavior, and all that kind of stuff. And you say there's this one book that is recorded. Everything about psychology is available to everyone if they are open enough and able to read this one book. And you know the good book I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yes. All right, we'll get back to that in a moment, but let's proceed. All right. Given your background in psychology, can you shed light on the psychological aspects of post colonial living? How has colonization legacy influenced the collective psyche of people in this country, and what challenges or strengths have emerged?
To begin with, you know what the colonial powers usually did. They
Yeah.
came and they separated us. So, and once an idea has been created, it cannot be destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
So once they showed us that as Africans we are different
Mhm.
in the languages we speak, maybe in the livelihoods we live. For example, if you do long distance trading, you're different from someone else who is a pastoralist. You're different from someone else who's a farmer.
Mhm.
So once they made those divisions, even after they went, the divisions still remained. And it also created an inferiority complex where we always think that the colonial powers culture and their language and their ideologies are the best apart from ours.
Yeah.
And people are forsaking whatever we used to do. Okay, we also have to admit that progression made some things that were beneficial to us. For example, medicine and science and technology.
Yeah.
Those are things that will help our lives, even in this era that we are living in. But now it brought in that inferiority complex, which is still prevalent today in our communities, in our society, where you find people want to learn the latest fashion, the latest trends, what Kardashians are doing, and they are not holding on to the precepts or whatever binds a community together.
Yeah.
For example, if it's the attribute of family, people are given to individualism or what I want, my needs, my wants, above the needs and the wants of the community, or whatever will benefit us in general. So these are things that need to be brought back And maybe also strengths, as we have said, there's and also our leaders also took the opportunity. For
Yeah.
those who are learned enough to go, they saw what the Mzungu were doing. They got their education, they came back and they became leaders. They also knew to retain that power, we'll have to do the same thing the Mzungu did.
Yeah.
So
Conquer and divide.
exactly, if we are the majority community in Kenya, then we must divide them so that our community will vote for us. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing that continues on to three different generations. But if we have a stand and we find a solution where there's one thing that unites us more than whatever divides us,
Yeah.
then we'll be able to forge forward as one and one community.
I think there's also that one notion where everybody's trying to tell us, hey, Africa, you'd do better if you all spoke in one language and unifying the entire continent through that. Well, as much as there's logic to that and, some truism to that, are we more united than we've ever been before? Do you think that's the case?
Well, there might be a slide towards unity
Mhm.
when we are gathering together to come against what we now is portrayed as the Western world, trying to detect terms, trying to detect how we will grow our economies.
Yeah.
And in that, we might unite. We might unite as one.
Mhm.
And our leaders are also pushing for the same.
Yeah.
You've seen different leaders going abroad and telling them how we are paying more interest rates as African on financing from Western countries. And if we are able to do that, we have the resources to grow ourselves. But we cannot entirely say that we will cut off any other form or any other form of interaction with other people.
Yeah.
We do need them in some way.
Yeah, we definitely do. My situation is this. The fact that we had a lot of languages in Africa, way, like a countries as small as Kenya, we've got more than 54 languages. So you can multiply that of all the countries you have in Africa. But then on the previous show, as I told you, as I mentioned before, people from the same, categories such as Kushites, whether it's the people who live in West Pokot or the people who lived in Narok or the people who lived in Tanzania, and people of that category before pre-colony, these guys literally could make things at their time that were similar to each other despite different languages. So that means before anything, we had our own systems despite our own miscommunication. I wouldn't call it miscommunication, but the language difference, because everybody had their own tongue and all that kind of stuff. But we used to have a systems, systems that could help unify societies, trade with each other because we knew we couldn't survive by ourselves. If it's the Maasais or the Cantons, then we take, we trade maize with them, for more goats or cows and all this kind of stuff. And so when you had things from the tribe, it used to be fun. I remember. Okay, this is a little bit off the script, but I remember when I was growing up. My mom is let's say a generation away from I'd say colonization. That's before my great grandfather. They fought the good war, the good war, right? So the guy used to trade in Tanzania. So every single time the guy used to come with stuff that he's traded, with the Maasais, everybody used to be proud of that. They'd say, you know what, yeah, that's like a 95. That came from that. It was brought by the Mzee from Tanzania. It's from the Maasai land, and it used to be something cool. But today, it's like nobody gives a credit to that anymore. We don't care about it as we used to. And as a result, we're finding that Western countries are buying these things way much more expensive than we are because they know the value of these things, which, as I saw, like Africans or the tribes in Africa have produced art way more than any other culture in the world, right? In terms of sculptures and all that kind of stuff. That used to be a way of telling stories, but now it's gone. Nobody does that anymore. The Akalas, who wants to wear Akalas anymore and they can do some Gucci's, as you say? you know,
Yeah.
which is something to really, really think about. So, as we move on to the political dynamics, because I know you don't like politics too much, despite having studied political science, but we're gonna touch base on that a little bit just to make sure we're heading in the right direction. So, moving in the realm of political science, how do you see the influence of colonization playing out in the political landscape in our country?
Oh, well, largely, the leaders who took over power from the colonial powers who were there
Yeah,
chose to follow the Marxist route, the capitalism, as we usually call it.
nice.
And
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
well, compare it to the neighbors, Tanzania, and not just naming. uh, it has its pros, it has its cons,
Yeah.
but it has helped us in the larger perspective.
Uh-huh.
And we are considered a hegemon, or rather a superpower, when it comes to economic prowess within the region. So it has had its benefits,
Uh-huh.
and yeah. So taking over from wherever the colonial powers left off, they were able to
You can sip some water. There's a bunch of that.
thanks. They were able to like forge our way towards the direction they saw fit.
Yeah.
And taking up capitalism, it helped our market to grow.
Yeah.
Free market means you can trade freely with whomever you want. You have ability to own land, to sell it as you will, and that also drew in investors in the long run. Come to now, so yes, in the political perspective, it has had its effects, and it has had its benefits, but also in the same way as we spoke before of the dynamic of segregation, that also created groups of people who isolate themselves whenever it comes to political issues. And we have seen it in tribalism. It can be seen in political affiliations, where people say, I am Azimio or UDA, and they are fully standing by that, and they will not, or rather, they do not want to interact with anyone, other person from the other paradigm. And also, we have seen it also in, for example, right now, where some people are supporting the executive, the others are the judiciary, and there might be another group supporting the parliament as whole.
Yeah.
So, as a country, as I said before, we need to come to a place where we look at the differences, or where we draw the line, and then think of something that unites us as whole, whatever it can be, whether it's building the economy, or, and if we have a common goal, then it will supersede all the divisions that we have.
But I think we do have a goal, and the goal is to be free from the Western, regime. In terms of we want to be in a situation where we're just as powerful as those brothers,
Sure, but
and the ability to do whatever we want to do without being told stop doing it. So that freedom, I think, is what a president has been stressing out for the last 2 years.
sure, and that will come with knowledge. You see, when people are exposed to whatever is happening in the larger global economic scene,
Yeah.
they will see whatever is happening, and they will realize why we need to regroup, reorganize ourselves, have a common strategy
Can you can
towards.
you can you share some stuff? You know, when you say what's happening, like could you be a little bit more specific on that?
For example, there's the leaving of the dollar
Yeah.
towards a common currency for Africa. Or rather, when Kenya is trading with you, we
Mhm.
trade with your currency
Instead of the dollar.
instead of the dollar.
Yeah.
That is one of the many examples we can give. And but now, when you come to the local people, maybe you find someone in Mamamboga there,
Yeah.
down there. The dollar does not affect her directly. She may not even know how the dollar affects her in the long run.
Yeah.
For her, the main purpose is getting the kids to school, paying fee, having something to eat, maybe paying rent if she's living somewhere where she's living in a rental place. And there are things that could unite all of us in general as Kenyans, and they touch towards. Or for example, whenever a country is facing war, like Ukraine against Russia, they all united towards one common enemy. Okay, I'm not saying that Kenya should start a war with anyone else so that
Yeah.
Kenyans will be united, but you see, that is something that is affecting everyone holistically. You can't say that, oh, let this group and this community go and fight off, then if they win, well and good, if they do not, no, you unite as a country towards a common,
A common goal.
yes,
And the more clear the goal is, the more it's easy for the everybody, the common person, to understand and
yes,
integrate towards moving forward.
yeah, sure.
I mean, I like the sound of that. Are there aspects of governance or political structures that can be traced back and need to be improved in order to be better as a country?
um Largely what we have spoken about, the issue about division
Ownership.
of ownership, yeah,
Yeah.
taking up roles, believing that we can be better leaders than the people who were before us,
Africa for Africa.
Africa for Africa, and also embracing family and community.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree on that. 100%. Yeah, I think leadership starts from home.
Sure.
Leadership starts with our own brothers and sisters, our own fathers taking the roles. By the way, which brings us to another topic, because the people who are way much more confused than we are is the generation before us, because they never did anything. They were like the first people to be affected directly post colonialism, because their fathers, who are now supposed to be like a second generation from where we're at, the people who fought for our rights, for the freedom that we have today. And so some of these things, they were lost because they're still trying to find they're still trying to find their footing into how they can balance the two. Culture, maybe what they grew up knowing, was very different from what their fathers grew up knowing, and we're very much different in terms of what we're growing up experiencing as the children of the nation. Because if you look at those two or three dynamics, the first one was at the colonial time, they were much more about the war. A lot of people were lost at that particular time. So the next people that came in, it was all about trying education because it was a new thing. It's they don't understand it fully, and then there's this money, they have to balance it. They still don't understand it as well. They and all this kind of stuff. And now there's us. At least in terms of money, we have structures that have been put in place, and that field is stabilizing up, as well as the field of education, so that we can better understand all this kind of stuff. And that's why if you go to a global scale, they say Kenya is our country is one of the leading in producing obedient workforce, and we have the skill sets, we have the high levels of education, because back in the day it was ridiculously expensive, right? But now we understand money, so we understand economics, we understand finance, and so we can be able to afford some of these things that we classified as assets and necessities for us to move forward. Do you think it's gonna be so like in the next 10 years? Should we be seeing more people going to school or changing something in the system? Because now it's we can look back and see where we've come from.
Well, the CBC is trying, where
CBC in terms of what does that mean?
a skill based more than getting knowledge to go work for someone.
Yeah.
So you see, whenever you get or acquire skills, those are things that you can use even if you do not have a work, rather a job.
Yeah.
So, for example, if your sink broke, you can fix it.
Correct.
If the chair broke, you can fix it. You can mend it. If the lights, something happened, maybe the cutout fell, you can repair it.
Yeah.
But you see, whenever we lack those skills, or rather we just do them in theory, you go to physics, or rather you didn't even do physics. When such a need arises, then you'll have to look for someone. But you see, you can also create your own or workforce, or rather your job. You can create money by doing simple tasks that other people have neglected. So coming back to that, even farming, so many people have left rural places where they have large tracts of land, and gone to the city where they think they'll get a better opportunity, a white collar job, blue collar job, while they can go back and farm and have a harvest. I've seen overnight
And
millionaires.
industrialize that, make that as a system, like, because yeah, I think I totally agree with you.
And the government is looking towards that, how they are putting the emphasis on agriculture. Then, when we have fully stabilized as a nation, our food reserves are okay. Then, now the next process will be, as you said, industrialization,
Yeah.
making sure that the raw produce from the farms are manufactured, or rather are processed to finished goods that you can sell at a higher price.
And through that, I think we can be able to claim a lot of market power,
Yes.
within locally and
International.
internationally.
Yes.
And that way we can, I think that's the gateway to becoming wealthy as a country, of eradicating poverty,
Yeah.
and becoming sustainable. Because some of these problems we're facing as a country, which is pretty much embarrassing: climate change, drought, hunger, should be nobody dying of starvation. But unfortunately, we're facing these things. We sometimes tend to say that it's bad luck and all this kind of stuff. But I think when you look at, on a different light, sometimes it's something that can be planned for
Yes.
and eradicated. It's like, that story in the Bible. The guy Joseph.
Mhm.
You know how he was able to plan for a 7-year drought,
Yeah.
by another a prior 7 years of prosperity and all this kind of stuff, right? There was water and all this kind of stuff. So we have the latest instruments. Why can't we just plan for these things? Why shouldn't we have reserves for crops? But I think we've been having that in terms of, for the longest.
Yeah. Well, it needs leaders who are dedicated towards that, and also people who are willing to work for the people and not themselves.
And not themselves. I think that's a key word. Not themselves. I think I like the sound of that. Right. So, time for a quick facts. Some quick facts check. I'll throw some questions at you, and I want you got reaction. Are you ready?
Ah, sure.
All right. So let's go. What's the weirdest animal you know?
Platypus.
Any funny talent you have?
I can't think of a funny talent I
No,
have.
you gotta have one. You gotta have one.
An example of a funny talent.
Sing in the shower.
No, that's singing as well.
That's a funny talent. You enjoy it, don't you?
Yeah, sure. I guess.
There we have it. And if you could make up a new holiday, what would it be called?
Wow. A cleaning day. Okay. We were discussing with a friend of mine, and he told me that in Rwanda,
Yeah.
they usually have one Friday a month for cleaning.
Nice.
Like nobody's left at home. It's not a sleeping day. You go out, you clean the environment, and then you go back in the evening. So maybe that would assist, or rather, we do it for tree planting.
Yeah, yeah. I think the one for cleaning is way better because people underestimate, how much it takes to live in a neat environment, in a
Yeah.
clean, green place, which is an ignorance issue we had with the previous generation.
Yeah, and imagine the whole country, as in each and everyone outside cleaning whatever trash that's lying around. It will also give people accountability to whatever they throw. You won't go throwing things outside the window when you're traveling in the car. You won't go dropping pieces of paper on the streets, because you know that next Friday I'll be somewhere outside collecting, and I wouldn't want my immediate neighbor to do the same, because
Yeah,
I'll have to pick it up.
absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with that. All right, bringing in your expertise in finance. Now let's do the money talk. How has the economic aftermath of colonization affected this country? Do you think it has affected it in any ways that is
Sure.
negative or positive?
Positively, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, again, where we are as a hegemon within the region, and largely we okay. The dynamics of economy is really large. sometimes we do not see the whole entirety of it. Sometimes we do not grasp whatever the leaders are doing until the fruits are seen. For example, I
Yeah.
remember when Thika Road was being built, people were crying and were shouting about homes being destroyed, and people were affected. I mean, the people who were there were affected, and how long it took to get to Nairobi from Thika. It was a mess at that particular time. But now we are all reaping the benefits of that. It has opened up so many places within, or rather along Thika Road, where
Yeah.
towns, rather small towns, have grown, estates have come up, and the land has increased in value. So from the time the colonialists left, we have seen a progression with our economy, both positively and also negatively. The people who, again, chose to benefit themselves from their position of power and responsibility rather than serve the people.
Mhm.
But as they were, or rather, as we go forward, we should then now change our mindset. Again, we did not invent economy.
No, no.
It's a Western concept, and
But do you think that's so? Because I also feel like the thing we didn't invest was centralized banking. But
sure,
everything else, in terms of money, I think we had that, but it wasn't centralized.
we traded. We had currency where, and currency I mean by
Iron,
yeah, you could bring maize as you
grain,
said, and someone gives you a herd of cattle.
barter
Or,
trading.
yeah, barter trading. We had a form of trading which was established,
Yeah,
but economy as we know it, the dynamics of it, how we calculate GDP, how we get to know if an economy is healthy or not, that one was not ours.
yeah,
So again, to better understand it, or rather to fix the problem that we are in, we will still need to learn from the people who are before us, the
yeah,
countries who have been independent for 100 or so years, people who have been establishing, or rather running the power game for a long time. So once we learn whatever positive lessons we get from them, now we can come and place them here.
implement them.
Yes, but remember, whatever implementation has to be made, it has to be um, fine-tuned to our our precepts, or rather our economy and the way of life we have. For example, communism was not called communism in Tanzania. It was called Ujamaa.
Mhm.
They fine-tuned it to their perspective, or to whatever fitted them. So again, capitalism, we need to fine-tune it to whatever works in Kenya. The good lessons we inculcate in ourselves, then whatever is not working in other countries, we leave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely agree with that. Bring out the good stuff here, the stuff that's working, because now you're competing on a global scale, and that's one thing we cannot ignore, right? So we also want to know the rules of the game, because this is one game that defines your edge and how you're able to play and be treated. So if you want to be treated well, definitely know the game, know the rules, and play to the best ability as we can. And I totally agree with that. That's my own grade one summarization. How I'd put it, right?
Mm.
So on a more personal note, how do you navigate your own cultural identity in this time, in this context? Are there rituals, traditions, and value that you uphold in order to preserve your cultural heritage?
Sure. And as I mentioned before, family is very important.
Hmm.
And I was fortunate enough to have grandparents who lived in that era, as you're saying. They were able to fight the colonial powers,
Yeah.
or rather participate in that. And they get to tell you stories of how life was, and those stories are things that you hold on to. Of course, the positive lessons, and it has to be deliberate. Whenever you are going to those family gatherings, go with the intentions of learning.
Yeah.
Go with the intentions of maybe growing or broadening your perspective towards whatever you are discussing. Then choose also to teach your children, or the people who will come after you, the same lessons, because it doesn't end with you. You might get a very um, good proverb in Kikuyu, and it impacts your life. Then it's your obligation also to teach your children the same.
Yeah.
so that again it can impact their lives. Maybe not in the same dimension as it did yours, but also impact their lives. So it has to be intentional, and it has to be deliberate, and also, yeah, taking up as much information as you can from whichever sources, whether it's listening to people who again, it's not very many people you will find with the vast knowledge that you expect to find with someone who lived a long time ago.
Yeah.
So whatever pieces you can get from this person and the other and the other and the other, now you choose to retain them, and also maybe if there are lessons you can practice, you do practice them.
I think this is one. It has become one of those subjects that, unless you're really aware of what's happening, you wouldn't know the right questions to ask.
Mhm.
You won't have the curiosity to find out your own truth, because it's easy to be drawn in a world where social media, everybody is saying whatever they want to say. Like this Christmas, you'll be like, what do some people are saying, I'm going back to shags, and now it's like it's gonna be like the previous time when people, talk to me in that language, but I tell them, naskilizanga, naskianga, but I can't speak. I only listen, I only hear, but I can't speak, which is pretty annoying to the older generation, because that's the only way they saw the community live in harmony, thrive. They didn't grow too much outside that. And so we guys that are a little bit knowledgeable, I'd say way much knowledgeable, and we're going back there, that these people, they have knowledge. It's not that they're not knowledgeable, they have knowledge in their own way, which rests in their bones because they've studied it since they were kids. They've seen, they've observed things that we will never see.
Yeah.
And so, if we don't give them an ear, they might as well exit with this knowledge. So, yes, I totally agree. It's a high time, if you understand this, obviously, because there's a level of understanding. If you came to me like a few years ago, probably 3 years ago, you know, a words, conversations such as this, or wanting to understand where I'm from, how we did things, and what separated us from everybody else, and what we were good at, the things that we can learn. It was like trying to water plastic; it never grows, you know. Which is a dynamic perspective. It's very difficult, different when now you're trying to get more understanding on life and where you're from.
Yeah,
So I
sure.
appreciate that. All right. So let's talk about overcoming challenges in the face of these challenges brought by colonizations. So what initiatives and movements have you observed that aim to overcome these obstacles and restore cultural pride?
Well, give credit where it's due. The government, for example, started a cultural day.
Nice.
I happened to be in Narok when they did the Maasai Cultural Week,
Uh huh.
and they were promised one day will be a national holiday. So those are some of the things we can take as a country and also as people, now to participate in such things. If you find, for example, a certain community is holding their cultural day somewhere, and you need to learn whatever or aspects of that community that you would love to learn, then go there and be willing to learn.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things I've seen, and I believe they'll go a long way to reestablish our heritage and also find our identity. As in, we won't be trapped in this trying to find our identity in the Kardashians or something.
Oh no, that's
Yeah.
the actually, even in business, I had the same quotation, like because we have more educated people going to campus and all this kind of stuff, we're now trying to fix a different world by using Western methods in our own continent, which is never gonna work because we are in a third world country, and it's a high time we woke up and realize that, hey man, we should be solving problems about how we can live our day to day better, right? And the guy was like, hey man, why are you inventing apps? You're inventing apps. You get out of your apartment or maybe slum, and the road is full of potholes. First fix the potholes, and then, then fix the next problem. Like fix the logistics problem, and then now you can go to the advanced way. Now, because the guys travel all over the world, and I tended to agree with him on this subject because um, he knows what he's talking about. And as Africa, we are not solving problems that face our day-to-day lives. We're solving problems because we're seeing Kardashians have the problem. Because we are so tuned into what they're saying, we're so sucked into their world that we forget, hey, I live in here and I have this problem. I have this security issue. What can I do about it? We're living in a world where also technology is, it's progressively advancing, and so criminals are dealing with that. So instead, what can I do about this to be more secure than I've ever been before? So we're not solving problems that are facing us currently, which is a huge issue as a nation.
Yeah, and a good example is what I saw in Rwanda, where they took drones. For example, here, if you find a drone, it's most probably being used for someone who does videography or photography.
Yeah.
But for them, they took that initiative and that technology and tailor made it for their solutions. For example, taking medicine to far out places where the road transport is not as vast.
Nice.
And they deliver medicine to your doorstep using a drone. So you see, we can use that technology, but also tailor make it for our needs and whatever we require from it, but not taking whatever technology is being used in that space and using it exactly in however they are using it.
Yeah.
For
Copy
example,
and pasting.
yeah,
Yeah.
if for them spying and doing photo shoots with a drone is what works for them, let them do it. But for us, what is working for us? Like, I wouldn't expect us to now Jumia to start be the first one to implement drones to deliver packages. There are far much better things they can do.
Yeah, yeah. And fortunately, we're now living in that world where we can be able to test a lot of things, get data of what's working, what's not working. Because yes, despite having these colonial, post-colonial challenges, some of them are good because I believe even some of the superpower countries are dealing with problems that we have today, and problems are blessings because they build strength, they build character, and they build resilience. Something, a country like Britain or maybe United States, guys didn't have Wi-Fi 60 years later after independence, but we do. We are able to build whatever we want to build. We have way better roads than they did at the time. They didn't have cars at the time, right? The cars came later on after, with Henry Ford and the guys, but the after the budget days, right? And we also had donkeys. Which is another situation. We talked about industrialization, and yesterday you told me that we cannot really grow or advance as a nation if we are not allowed to industrialize on our own.
Yeah.
So perhaps we could dig deeper into that.
Sure. You see, for all those superpowers, as they call themselves, and the place where they have reached, they all went through the same things. You start with mining, agriculture, getting the raw produce from whichever source whether it's the farm, whether it's the ground, and then you refine that to a finished product.
Yeah.
For when you sell it as a raw material, you'll get far less than what you'd get if it's a finished good. So when we are being told that we should not industrialize, that industrialization is bringing carbon emission and it's against whatever policy they want to work with, well and good, we can choose to follow that route, but it will be for our detriment. They still have their companies
Running.
The companies are still running. They are buying carbon credits from us who are a bit greener than them.
Yeah.
So they want to keep their companies at the expense of us.
Yeah.
And giving us money for that.
And the companies and the countries that have companies, they're now starting to rise up. Right?
Yeah.
Because I think they're learning from that. They saw, and this is for USA. Let me just be blank and point. They went to China. They outsourced all their manufacturing, plastics and everything. The private sector did that, And now, many years after that, the country is literally the GDP has been growing like crazy, producing products than quality grade products like they are. Sometimes, with a wide variety to choose from, which makes it really convenient for upcoming markets such as ours to to source products such as those, which in the first place we could never afford if we were if we were asking them directly from a superpower country that only has the best product there is, right? And so as a result, the market in there has been growing really, really fast. And so they've been seeing that and saying, we cannot let this happen in another country because we'll be creating another enemy.
Exactly, and give it to Kenya because we have resilience
Yeah.
in whichever field, whether it's the tech space, economy, business,
Agriculture.
agriculture, sports. We are always at the top when it comes to our region.
Uh-huh.
And when another country sees this, it knows in the next 100 years or 50 years, this country will surpass wherever they are. Remember, most of their resources are depleting.
Yeah.
So they do require resources from us because Africa is still vast, as Africa is still has plenty of resources, still untapped. And so what will they do to make sure that we do not use our resources?
Yeah, like I am so surprised to hear that we have a mine that can generate oil, but for has it been 5 years now? We still haven't seen anything. We're literally scraping Kenyan shillings, converting it to dollars so that we can import oil. Well, we can just dig in there and we can have the oil as much as we want because we got the reserves here. But I guess the propagandas from the other countries, they don't want us doing that because they're afraid if we start exploiting our own resources, we're not going to need them. And as you know, economy, how it works is the study of luck, right? I had somebody say that the other day. And so now we're not gonna be needing that aspect, so we can sell it to the neighboring regions, or trade something different because how our president is so enthusiastic about now using the dollars for every transaction we make with other countries that is not correlated to that currency, and because of that. That could shake some global economy and put us on the map to independence or freedom and being one of the wealthiest.
Sure. And whichever leaders are on top, they have to find policy or rather agreements that will favor us more than they favor the people who are. For example, if it's funds we're going for, they have to strike deals that find a balance.
Yeah,
As much
yeah.
as we are losing maybe in the interest on the loans, we are gaining something much more, or rather, we are having we are being financed at a more favorable rate than whatever we would have gotten from another country. So when you are proactive and you love whatever you are doing and you love the people you are serving, you will seek these things out. But if you are called and told, you can take a loan for your country at 50% interest rate, and then we'll give you 3 billion on the side for yourself, and you're like, oh yeah, sure, that's the best for our country.
Yeah,
You see,
yeah.
yeah,
So we need long-sighted visionaries, leaders who are here to lead for the legacy.
yes,
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And there's this situation in the country that's going on, and people are hating our leader right now. They're hating our president for it. Everything that's happening in the economy that is we're facing high taxation, we're facing high value in goods we're getting to pay more for goods than we did before, and so people think it's a president problem, and so they're starting to hate on it because everybody on the opposition says the same stuff. Would you agree with that?
well, there's a quote in the Bible that says, wisdom is proved right by her children. Let's wait.
Let's wait.
2025 is almost here.
Yeah.
We'll see if whatever they are doing is working,
Uh-huh.
or maybe they're just guessing things.
All right, but if you're gonna be asked, do you think it's gonna work out in a good way, or in a way that we're dreading?
Well, if you take an unbiased stand,
Yeah.
leave all your bias and maybe listen to whatever he's saying, it does make sense, right? But you never know whatever is happening on the background. When the doors are closed, when they're meeting alone.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, in the long run, we will see the fruits. If it's working, it will work.
Yeah.
And we will definitely see the improvements that are being made gradually. But if it's not working, again, in the long run, we will see.
We will see.
We will see.
And we can learn from that.
Yes.
And we'll have time to correct it.
Mm.
Yeah, I think yeah, some things will does take time for us to see and understand how best things unfold. And yeah, to better be patient, see how it's gonna work out. Let's not hate too much. Let's not forget to love, because when we love, we'll be in a much better place. So you are also a theologian.
Practicing Christian.
Yeah, one of those Christians, who really have studied, your religion, our religion,
Yes.
in the best way possible. And what is the one thing that, as a nation, we could borrow from that?
Well,
Or many things.
there are so many things we can borrow from Christianity. Again, this was not ours, it was brought, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, Christianity is not really a religion, it's a relationship. You come to know Christ, and then, as they call him, Yahweh. And when you come to know him, now you come to have a relationship with him. And it's funny because in the Hebrew, the word yada, or rather knowledge, is not intellectual knowledge, like how you'd go to school, study maths, study science, and pass an exam. It's relational. It's always relational. That means, for example, if you wanted to marry someone and you are dating, you get to know them through the relationship, right?
Yeah.
You won't go to a course,
No.
like to university, and I'm studying someone so that after 2 years I can marry them. No, you learn through relation. You come to know their likes, to know what their personality, what they love.
Actions.
Yes. Now from there you can say, I know someone. But without that relationship, you will know about someone. So it's the same thing. You come to know Christ, and to know Yahweh through Christ. And then from there, you establish a relationship with him. And it's growing every day. And you can never say, ati, sasa nimefika mwisho. Nimejua Mungu, sasa nimetosheka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let us know what you think. We're gonna let us know whether to bring him back to explore that topic much deeper, because he really knows what he's talking about. He's one of those guys I look out for deeper wisdom in that area. All right, so we have hope for the future. Looking ahead, the hopes. Do you have? What are the hopes that we do have for future generations, in terms of reconnecting and celebrating their cultural roots? Because that was the main topic.
Sure. As much as the government is doing something, the hope also has to come from us.
Yeah.
Taking a stand and determining, as I said, it has to be deliberate. For example, I said, I will teach my kids to learn, to write, to read, and to speak my native language.
Mhm.
That's something that you have to decide. And also, any lesson that you have learned from your parents, from your grandparents.
So you know how to write it?
Sure.
You know how to read it?
Yes.
How old are you when you taught yourself this? Oh, did you have to attend classes?
No classes. We were fortunate enough to have a traditional Bible at home.
Nice.
So I could see my parents read, and then I could go and try and read.
Yeah.
So it's not really different. Just the pronunciations and how you, like the dialect, how you utter some words different, a bit different from Kiswahili, but at the end of the day, you can grasp. It's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science.
Plus, having spoken it from when I was small.
Yeah. You still speak it today?
Yeah, I do.
Interesting. I like the sound of that. Yeah.
So
yeah.
now, when we take that decision to say we will also teach our children our heritage, and not in a place where they will, like, for example, see others and discriminate others because they are different, but rather loving the diversities. Also teaching them that other people were better at this, and it's because of their differences.
Mm-hmm.
So they will learn to embrace the differences they see. They will learn to embrace the diversities that are out there, instead of segregating from them.
Yeah.
And now when we teach our kids this, they will grow and be proud of their heritage, because this is something that they hold dear to.
And I think this is the only way we can curb the stigmatization that we have in
Yes.
the society. Just because a person speaks
Yes.
English using an accent that is from a native tongue that's from a certain tribe in Africa, it shouldn't discriminate that. Instead, should uphold them because either way, that person knows that whatever happens, this is my third language,
Yeah.
right? But unfortunately, we are, I'd say, the third generation that was super disconnected from the previous two. And so embracing the modernization, the way, new languages, new ways of doing things has been, that's what we've grown up knowing. But now we have to dig deep to our roots, figure out how to, to bring culture and embrace that, our language, how we treated one another, what we were good at, what the other people were good at. And if they're good at this, that means that's a strength because this is what I'm good at. That's what they're good at. So when it comes together, we become strong.
Yeah.
I think that's part of unity because before then, we never knew our crashes happening all over, and if it did, it was against men, men to men. And they go fight, they go rob, they go do whatever they want. Those those early modern days, the grandfathers will definitely give you, and then they'll, it's an interesting topic, and you need to go back to the roots, find somebody who knows this language, their stuff from the early days, and I can assure you it's fascinating than you probably hope or you've been told it's not. It is. I really enjoy sitting with my grandfather and listening to the tales of the early days. Some words we've coined, like gishagi, as I was telling you the other day. Gishagi to us is a very, very different thing than the people who are, the for the colonization, call that. We call gishagi like our own countryside today. But back in the days, my grandfather will tell me it's all about where they were segregated as people in the same region, and around that there were like tunnels or dig outs, and then in those dig outs they were placed spikes, and so if you try to escape, you definitely be spiked out and die, right? Because the colonial time at the time, they wanted to capture the Mau Maus, and so they discovered if they can put everybody in the same region and let the people build houses there, then the control is gonna be easier, and so that everybody else in the forest, who at the time was the Mau Mau, the rebellious people, and now they'll be dealt with in a different way, and so these small things, or how some words were coined. I learned also mufuteti is a Kikuyu word. It came from the Muzungu saying "move straight." And so, because the Kikuyus didn't know how to tell it, the Kikuyu said "mufuteti," told the other Kikuyu "mufuteti, mufuteti, mufuteti." So every single time they used to meet, they were like, "Oradiete, dadila mufuteti yo." It's move straight. Some things that make sense that some languages were invented at that time, and you also need to learn the vocabulary at the time because it's such an interesting journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do a huge close. So a huge thank you to you, as our guest, Stanley Mwangi,
Always a pleasure.
for sharing such valuable insight into the after effects of colonization on culture in that world country. To our bosses, that's you watching this or listening to this. I hope this episode sparks meaningful reflection. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts, and stay tuned for more eye opening discussions here on Boast Lifestyle Club. Until next time, keep exploring, stay connected to your roots, and let curiosity guide you.